Welcome back. You're listening to the weekend edition of the Korelin Economics Report. As I said during the first segment, this particular show is being produced in its entirety at the San Francisco Hard Asset Investment Conference. You know, Adrian Day, who we just chatted with, is a really interesting guy, and I want to say once more about him. He is one of the best asset managers in the business, and I'm not getting paid to say that. I simply believe it, and that's one of the reasons that Kathy and I are beginning to work with him. So, bit of an endorsement there. Okay, another endorsement here, Yale Simpson. Yale is the chairman of Exeter Resources. We got an interesting question from a listener this past week, Yale. A lady said, why is Exeter stock totally imploding? Well, I'm saying I'm not sure that it's totally imploding, but if you look at a chart, we seem to see some price depreciation here. What's going on?
You know, it's interesting. I mean, it's a good question. It's not just an interesting question. It's a brutally good one. And I'm at the show here, and I own other shares in different companies, and I can say that the chart of most juniors looks just about like Exeter's, which really tells you from a bigger space, there's influences on these companies that are a lot bigger than what I can say or what our people can do on a day-to-day basis.
Well, you know, the thing that really surprised me, that showed me how, in my opinion, irrational the market is right now, is that some very, very good news came out surrounding the area where Caspiche is just this past couple of weeks. You and I talked about that. You know, the news that came out had to do with another asset that was purchased by a major company down there. There's only one independent company left that has an asset of any size down there, and that's Exeter.
That's right. And obviously our share price reacted to it, Al. It might have gone up by 20%, 20 to 25% on that news. And the news, what it basically said, what you're saying is that if you want a big deposit, what they call world class, and then who owns it? It's Exeter. The whole thing about it, you know what the market tells you? Because we have a very big deposit, 30 million ounces gold equivalent, or 19.3 million ounces gold equivalent, the market is valuing us at about $120 million, okay, of which 56 million is in cash. And if you say, looking at the chart and what Exeter is doing, the fact is the market likely has very little expectation that we will go into play tomorrow and do a deal with a major. That perception was changed a little bit because Andina was taken over by Rothschilds, which leaves only one company left. But we've also said as a company that we don't have a huge for sale sign out there at these prices. Now, we're a public company. Somebody can walk in and make a bid for us tomorrow, and you'll read about it in the newspaper the day after. But Andina, and I always, because there used to be an Andean, Andina had their backs to the wall. They had very little cash. They had a big project, and they got double the market cap. It was a double when the deal was done. And if I apply those same parameters to Exeter, and somebody said, okay, bottom of the market, opportunistic bid, on the same matrix, what would you pay for Exeter? Well, you'd be paying $2.80 a share, and we're trading at about $1.30. So I will say this, we're working to add the value, de-risk the project, all the environmental work, but the bigger influences in this market are what is setting the price for Exeter and for go across the spectrum of companies.
I'll tell you what I think is going on right now. I mean, obviously, I've got a pretty good handle on what's going on in the market. I've got a pretty good handle on what's going on politically. And as I was chatting in the last segment with Adrian, I think people are scared to death right now. I think people are frightened, number one, because I think the majority of the money in this country, roughly the 53% or so of the people who even pay taxes in this country, are very, very concerned with what the administration is going to do, and I think that's keeping people out of the market. As Adrian brought up, you know, a huge amount of money has been taken out of the conventional market in the United States since the president was elected. What does that tell me? That tells me that people they don't know what to do right now. You know, if you couple that with the really, I would have to say, aggressive tenure, okay, that the president is taking with the Republicans. If you look at the fact that you're not seeing any compromise on both sides of the aisle, if you look at the fact that we have a meaningful fiscal cliff, as it's called, just coming up here within the next month and a half or so, I think people are frightened.
They're scared. There's, as I see it, Al, there's no new money coming into the junior mining space. Zero. Okay? And what we do in terms of marketing a company is to try to contain the selling or basically keep your major shareholders informed. And we do a reasonable job of that.
You're doing a great job in terms of that, and I have to say, and don't construe this as being investment advice, because I'm not a registered investment advisor. I'm also, through the Encompass Fund, a shareholder of Exeter. Yale and his family are good friends of mine. So this isn't even close to being arm's length. But I have to say, number one, you guys are doing a great job in terms of keeping your shareholders informed, number one. And number two, I think the sky's the limit for you. And I think the next 3 to 12 months could be very, very interesting.
Yeah. And I will say this, my personal view of the market is this is going to be a fairly brutal time between now and the end of the year. Tax loss selling is going to kick in right into the sector. So, I'd encourage people to have a look at us. Lots of levers of the gold price, et cetera, but I don't expect it to be much fun over the next 4 weeks.
I don't think it's going to be fun at all, and I have to say that I'm going to be making some announcements in terms of my portfolio on the Daily Show next week. I do have some shares that I'm going to sell. I'm going to lighten up on some areas, but I won't do that without giving listeners, my typical 3-day notice. The companies that I'm involved in, that you're involved in, I'm not selling, and the reason I'm not is because I'm not a short-term guy. I think long-term, sure, the next 4 weeks are going to be really tough. I agree with you. But any person in this particular sector who's only concerned about the next 2 to 4 to 6 weeks doesn't belong in the sector.
Have we got time for a quick comment?
Yes, we do.
Talking to one of the smartest traders out there, John Wheeler, I had breakfast with him this morning. He said, for the person who's looking at the juniors, you don't have to look at the company and hope that the drill hits something. That's crazy. The companies who have something are so undervalued, and they're the ones that are going to recover first. He said, forget about drilling at Chibougamau, hoping for a good drill hole. And a lot of those companies are going to basically, they'll fold, they'll merge, they'll roll back, all of those things. And, Exeter's space is lots of cash, big asset. When the stars align, it's $1 billion asset. I don't know when the stars are going to align, but the asset isn't going away.
The asset is going absolutely nowhere. Real quick, let's end on this note, and that is, what are your plans for work on the property over the next 6 months? Don't have a lot of time. Got about 30 seconds.
Okay. If you go there right now, you'll see a helicopter flying over Caspiche. We think there's potential for another one nearby. Barrick have found another deposit about 5 miles away. We hadn't even surveyed our lands. And we're drilling for water next month. That's a big deal for us.
Busy guys. Ladies and gentlemen, stick around. Big Al's going to be right back. Again, if you want any more information on Exeter, remember they're sponsors on our website. What does that mean? That means all you have to do is click on their banner, get all the information you want. Going to be right back.